The moment I walked onto that stage at the Metropolitan Business Awards, accepting the trophy for youngest self-made billionaire under 30, and saw my parents' faces in the crowd, the same parents who'd told me 3 hours earlier that I was too much of a failure to attend our family dinner. I knew this moment would haunt them forever. I'm Stella Martinez, and tonight I'm worth $1.2 billion. But 6 hours ago, my own mother looked me in the eyes and said I was an embarrassment to the family name. Sometimes the universe has a twisted sense of timing. But let me take you back to where this all started. Back to the graduation day that changed everything. Picture this, Stanford University, May 15th, graduation day. The campus was alive with celebration, families everywhere, taking photos, crying happy tears, celebrating their children's achievements. I'd just graduated summa cum laude with a degree in computer science and a minor in business administration. For years of 18-hour study days, living on instant ramen, and working 3 part-time jobs to pay for what my scholarships didn't cover. I was the first person in my family to graduate from college. The first to even finish high school, actually. I sat in that sea of caps and gowns, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. My heart was pounding with excitement and pride. This was supposed to be the moment that proved everything, that the little girl from East LA who grew up sharing a bedroom with her 3 younger siblings could make something of herself. The ceremony lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of speeches, awards, and celebrations. My parents never showed up. Not my mother, Rosa, who'd worked double shifts at the garment factory to help pay my dorm fees. Not my father, Miguel, who'd driven Uber nights and weekends to send me spending money. Not my siblings, who I'd tutored through high school while managing my own course load. None of them came. I walked across that stage, shook hands with the dean, accepted my diploma, and smiled for a photo that nobody in my family would ever see. When they called my name, Stella Martinez, graduating summa cum laude, I heard polite applause from strangers. But the silence where my family's cheers should have been was deafening. After the ceremony, I sat alone on a bench outside the auditorium, still wearing my cap and gown, watching other families celebrate. Fathers lifting their daughters off the ground in bear hugs. Mothers crying with pride. Siblings holding homemade signs and screaming congratulations. I finally called my mom. Mija, she answered, and I could hear the noise of my cousins playing in the background. How did it go? It went well, Mom. I graduated summa cum laude. That means with highest honors. That's nice, baby. Listen, we had familia stuff come up. Your tia Carmen needed help moving, and you know how these things are. Family comes first. Family comes first. Except when it came to my graduation from Stanford University. I understand, Mom, I said, even though I didn't understand at all. Besides, she continued, it's just school, right? Now you can come home and get a real job. Maybe work at the bank like your prima Sandra. She makes good money there. Just school. For years at one of the world's most prestigious universities. Just school. That night, I sat in my empty dorm room. My roommate had gone to celebrate with her family at a fancy restaurant and made a decision that would change everything. I wasn't going home to work at a bank. I wasn't going to let my family's limitations become my own. I was going to build something extraordinary. Something so big, so undeniable, that they'd have no choice but to see my worth. The first 2 years after graduation were the hardest of my life. I moved to San Francisco with $800 in my checking account, a suitcase full of clothes, and a laptop that crashed every time I ran too many programs. I'd landed a job at a small tech startup called Dataflow Solutions. The office was a converted warehouse in Soma, with exposed pipes and folding chairs that left marks on your back if you sat too long. My salary was $65,000 a year, more money than I'd ever seen, but in San Francisco, it barely covered rent on a studio apartment I shared with two other girls. My bedroom was actually a converted closet. Literally. We'd hung a curtain across what used to be storage space, and that's where I slept on an air mattress for 18 months. But I was learning everything I could about the tech industry. Data flow solutions help small businesses analyze their customer data, and I was fascinated by how much you could understand about human behavior through numbers and patterns. During my lunch breaks, I'd walk around the financial district, looking up at the gleaming towers where the real tech giants worked. Google, Twitter, Salesforce, companies that had started with just an idea and turned into billion-dollar empires. I wanted that. I wanted to build something that mattered. Every Sunday, I'd call home. The conversations followed the same pattern. "When are you coming back, Stella?" my mother would ask. "Your prima Sandra just got promoted to assistant manager at the bank. She's making $45,000 now. Plus benefits. I'm doing well here, Mom. I'm learning so much about technology and business. But when are you coming home? This computer thing, it's not real work. It's not stable like a bank job." Stable like a bank job. I was helping build software that could revolutionize how businesses operated, but because they couldn't see it or touch it, it wasn't real work. The distance between my world and theirs grew wider every week. 18 months into my job at Dataflow, I noticed something strange in our client data. We were working with small restaurants and retail shops, helping them understand their customer patterns. But there was a gap in the market that nobody was addressing. Small businesses were drowning in data they didn't know how to use. They had information from their point-of-sale systems, social media analytics, customer feedback surveys, online reviews, but no way to connect it all into actionable insights. The existing solutions were either too expensive for small businesses or too complicated for non-technical owners to use. I started working on a prototype in my spare time. Every evening after work, every weekend, every holiday. I taught myself advanced programming languages, studied user interface design, and interviewed dozens of small business owners to understand their real needs. My bedroom became my laboratory. I had 2 monitors set up on a folding table, cables running everywhere, an empty coffee cup stacked like a fortress around my workspace. My roommates thought I was losing my mind. "Stella, it's 3 a.m., Maya would whisper through the curtain. "You've been coding for 12 hours straight." "Almost done," I'd whisper back, knowing I was nowhere near done. 6 months later, I had something revolutionary, an AI-powered business analytics platform that could take data from multiple sources and present it in simple, visual dashboards that any small business owner could understand and act on. I called it Insight Engine. I quit my job at Dataflow on a Tuesday morning in March. My boss thought I was having a nervous breakdown. "Stella, you're making a huge mistake," he said as I cleaned out my desk. "You have a stable job here. Good benefits. Why would you throw that away for some fantasy?" "Because I'm not building a fantasy," I replied. "I'm building the future." I had $12,000 in savings and a prototype that I believed could change everything. I moved out of the shared studio apartment and into something even smaller, a micro studio in Oakland that was basically a glorified closet with a kitchenette. But it was mine, and more importantly, it was cheap enough that I could survive for 6 months without income while I launched Insight Engine. The first version of the platform was rough around the edges, but it worked. I knew I needed real customers to test it and refine it, so I did something that terrified me. I started cold calling small business owners. "Hi, my name is Stella Martinez, and I've created a tool that can help you understand your customers better and increase your revenue by up to 30%. Would you be willing to let me show it to you for free? The rejection was brutal. 9 out of 10 people hung up on me. Others were polite but dismissive. We already have systems in place. We don't need more technology. Call back next quarter. But that 10th person changed everything. Maria Santos owned 3 small Mexican restaurants in the Mission District. She was drowning in data from online orders, Yelp reviews, social media, and customer surveys, but had no idea how to make sense of it all. "Show me what you've got," she said when I walked into her flagship location. I set up my laptop right there in the restaurant during the lunch rush. Within 20 minutes, I'd connected all her data sources and shown her insights she'd never seen before. "You're telling me that my Tuesday lunch customers are completely different from my Friday dinner customers?" she asked, staring at the screen. "Not just different demographics," I explained. "Different ordering patterns, different price sensitivity, different response to promotions. You could be running targeted campaigns instead of generic ones and probably increase your revenue by 25% in the next quarter." Maria stared at the dashboard for a long moment. Then she looked at me. "How much?" "For the pilot program, nothing. If it works and increases your revenue, we can talk about a monthly subscription." 3 weeks later, Maria called me at 7 p.m. on a Friday night. "Stella, you need to get down here right now." I panicked. Had something gone wrong with the system? Had I somehow damaged her business? I rushed to the restaurant, expecting the worst. Instead, I found Maria behind the bar with a bottle of champagne and the biggest smile I'd ever seen. "My revenue is up 34% from last month," she said, popping the cork. 34%, Stella. I've been running restaurants for 15 years, and I've never seen numbers like this. She handed me a glass of champagne and a check for $2,000. "This is your first payment," she said. "And I want to talk to you about bringing this system to all my restaurants. Plus, I've been talking to other restaurant owners in the association. They want to know when they can sign up." Word spread through the small business community like wildfire. Maria Santos became my unofficial spokesperson, telling every business owner she met about the miracle analytics platform that had transformed her restaurants. Within 6 months, I had a waiting list of 500 small businesses wanting to use Insight Engine. The problem was, I was still a one-person company working out of a micro studio in Oakland, and the platform wasn't built to handle that kind of scale. I was working 18-hour days, 7 days a week, manually setting up each new client and providing personal support for every question. I was drowning in my own success. That's when I met David Chin. David was a venture capitalist who'd heard about Insight Engine through Maria's accountant, who'd mentioned it to a client, who'd brought it up at a dinner party where David happened to be sitting at the next table. "I'd like to buy you coffee," he said when he called me on a Tuesday morning. "I think you might be building something very interesting." We met at a cafe in Palo Alto. David was younger than I'd expected, probably early 30s, with the casual confidence that came from making successful bets on early-stage companies. "Tell me about your vision for Insight Engine," he said after we'd ordered. For the next hour, I laid out everything. The problem I was solving, the technology behind the platform, the customer feedback, the revenue growth, and most importantly, the massive market opportunity. Small businesses generate over $6 trillion in revenue annually in the US alone, I explained. Most of them are making decisions based on gut instinct instead of data because existing analytics tools are either too expensive or too complicated. Insight Engine democratizes business intelligence. David nodded thoughtfully. "What do you need to scale this?" "Capital, infrastructure, and team. I need to rebuild the platform to handle thousands of clients, hire engineers and customer success managers, and invest in marketing to reach businesses beyond word of mouth. How much capital? I took a deep breath. I'd rehearsed this number 100 times, but saying it out loud still felt surreal. $2 million for series of funding. David smiled. I think we can do better than that. What if I told you I could get you 5 million, but you'd need to be ready to scale to 10,000 clients in the next 18 months? My coffee cup was halfway to my lips when he said it. I set it down carefully, trying not to let my hands shake. I'd say yes. The series of funding round was like entering a different universe. Suddenly, I wasn't just Stella who worked alone in a micro studio. I was the CEO of Inside Engine Incorporated, a venture-backed startup with serious expectations and even more serious pressure. David introduced me to his partners at Chin Ventures, and within 2 weeks, we had a term sheet for $5.2 million in exchange for 25% of the company. On paper, Inside Engine was now valued at over $20 million. On paper, I was worth $15 million. But paper valuations don't pay rent or validate years of sacrifice. The real test was whether I could deliver on the promises I'd made. I moved the company into real office space in Soma, 5,000 square feet with actual conference rooms, a kitchen, and windows that looked out over the bay. I hired my first employees, 2 senior engineers, a head of customer success, and a marketing manager. For the first time since graduation, I had my own bedroom. Not just a bedroom, a 1-bedroom apartment in Potrero Hill with hardwood floors and a view of the city skyline. I bought real furniture instead of folding chairs and air mattresses. But the pressure was intense. We had 18 months to grow from 50 clients to 10,000 clients. That meant rebuilding the entire platform, creating automated onboarding processes, developing customer support systems, and scaling marketing efforts across multiple channels. I was still working 80-hour weeks, but now I had a team depending on me. Every hiring decision, every product feature, every marketing campaign could make the difference between massive success and spectacular failure. The growth was exponential. Month 3, 200 clients. Month 6, 800 clients. Month 9, 2,400 clients. The revenue numbers were staggering. We'd started with a simple $200 per month subscription model. But as we added features and capabilities, we introduced tiered pricing. Our average customer was now paying $450 per month, and enterprise clients were paying up to $2,000 per month. By month 12, we were generating $1.8 million in monthly recurring revenue. Annualized, that was over $21 million. David called me into his office on a Thursday afternoon in October. Stella, we need to talk about Series B. Series B meant more funding, higher valuations, and even bigger expectations. It also meant I was succeeding beyond my wildest dreams from those early days in the closet bedroom. What are you thinking? I asked. Based on your growth metrics and market position, I think we could raise $25 million at a $200 million valuation. I did the math in my head. If Inside Engine was valued at $200 million, and I still own 60% of the company after dilution from the Series A, that meant my stake was worth $120 million. I was going to be worth over $100 million before my 28th birthday. The call came on a Saturday morning in November. I was at the office, because even as CEO of a fast-growing startup, I still worked weekends, when my phone rang with my mother's contact photo. Hola, Mija, she said, and I could immediately tell something was wrong. Her voice had that tight quality it got when she was stressed or angry. Hi, Mom. Everything okay? I need to talk to you about this weekend. Your cousin Patricia is getting married, and the whole family is coming together for the ceremony and reception. Patricia was my father's brother's daughter, and she'd always been the family's golden child. While I was studying computer science, Patricia had gotten her cosmetology license and opened a successful salon. While I was struggling to pay rent in San Francisco, Patricia had bought a house in Riverside and gotten engaged to her longtime boyfriend. "That's wonderful for Patricia," I said. "When is the wedding?" "Sunday afternoon." "But Stella." She paused, and I knew whatever came next would hurt. "Maybe it's better if you don't come." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean?" "You know how these family events are. People ask questions about work, about marriage, about life. And with you living up there in San Francisco, doing your computer thing, it's hard to explain to people what you actually do." My computer thing. The company I'd built from nothing was now worth $200 million, but to my mother, it was still just my computer thing. "Mom, I can explain what I do. I built a software company that helps small businesses, but it's not real, Mija. It's not something people can understand. Patricia owns a salon. People can see it, touch it, get their hair done there. Your Tia works at the hospital, she saves lives. Your primo Carlos is a mechanic, he fixes cars. But you make computer programs. How do I explain that to your abuela?" There it was. The fundamental disconnect that had existed between us since college. If they couldn't see it or touch it, it wasn't real work. And honestly, she continued, with all the successful people who'll be there, the doctors, the business owners, the people with real careers, it might be embarrassing to have you there talking about your websites or whatever. Embarrassing. My mother thought I would be embarrassing at a family wedding because my success didn't fit into her definition of legitimate work. "I understand," I said quietly, even though I was screaming inside. "Good. I knew you'd understand. Maybe next time, when you have something more stable to talk about." After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long time, looking out at the San Francisco skyline. From my window, I could see the towers where Google and Salesforce had their headquarters. I could see the Bay Bridge, where thousands of people commuted every day to build the technology that powered the modern world. My computer thing was about to make me worth over $100 million. But to my family, I was still too much of a failure to attend a wedding. The call came from Jennifer Walsh, the executive director of the Metropolitan Business Council, San Francisco's most prestigious business organization. "Ms. Martinez, I hope I'm not disturbing you on a Saturday." "Not at all. How can I help you?" "I'm calling to inform you that you've been selected as this year's recipient of the Rising Star Award for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. The award recognizes business leaders under 30 who've made exceptional contributions to the Bay Area economy." I nearly dropped the phone. The Rising Star Award was a huge honor. Previous recipients had included the founders of Airbnb, Uber, and Dropbox when they were still emerging companies. I'm honored, I managed to say. The award ceremony is tomorrow evening at the Fairmont Hotel. It's a formal event, and you'll be giving an acceptance speech to about 500 business leaders from across the city. Can we count on your attendance? Tomorrow evening. The same night as Patricia's wedding reception. Yes, I said without hesitation. I'll be there. After I hung up, I called my assistant and asked her to arrange for a formal gown, professional hair and makeup, and a speech coach for the next morning. If I was going to accept one of the most prestigious business awards in San Francisco, I was going to do it right. But first, I had one more phone call to make. Mom, it's me. Stella? Is everything okay? You sound different. I wanted to let you know that I won't be able to make Patricia's wedding after all. Oh, That's okay, Mija. We talked about how it might be better. I have a conflict, I interrupted. I'm receiving an award tomorrow night from the Metropolitan Business Council. They're honoring me as one of the most successful young entrepreneurs in San Francisco. Silence on the other end. It's a pretty big deal, I continued. 500 business leaders will be there. The mayor is presenting the awards. They're calling me one of the rising stars of Silicon Valley. More silence. Anyway, I should go. I need to prepare my acceptance speech. Give my love to Patricia. I hung up before she could respond. The Fairmont Hotel's grand ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over tables dressed in white linens and gold accents. 500 of San Francisco's most influential business leaders filled the room: venture capitalists, tech executives, startup founders, and established entrepreneurs. I wore a midnight blue gown that had cost more than my first month's rent in Oakland. My hair was styled in an elegant updo, and for the first time in years, I felt like I truly belonged in a room full of successful people. But the most incredible moment came when Jennifer Walsh took the stage for the awards presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, this year's Rising Star Award goes to someone who embodies the innovative spirit of Silicon Valley. In just 3 years, she's built a company that's revolutionizing how small businesses use data analytics. Her platform serves over 8,000 clients across North America and generates over $21 million in annual revenue. My heart was pounding as she continued. But tonight, we have an even more special announcement. This afternoon, we learned that Inside Engine Incorporated has closed a Series B funding round that values the company at $1.2 billion, making our honoree San Francisco's youngest self-made female billionaire. The room erupted in applause. $1.2 billion. Somehow, between the morning Series A discussion and this evening, David had orchestrated a funding round that exceeded every projection we'd made. Please welcome Stella Martinez, founder and CEO of Inside Engine Incorporated. I walked onto that stage in a daze. Billionaire. At 28 years old, I was officially a billionaire. The standing ovation seemed to last forever. 500 successful, accomplished people were on their feet, applauding a girl from East LA. Who'd started with nothing but an idea and an unshakable belief in her own potential. When I reached the podium and looked out at the crowd, I saw familiar faces in the back of the room. My parents. My siblings. Even my grandmother, dressed in her best black dress. They'd driven up from Los Angeles. Somehow, they'd heard about the award and made the 4-hour drive to San Francisco. My mother's eyes were wide with shock and something that looked like pride. My father was recording everything on his phone. My siblings were staring like they'd never seen me before. Thank you, I began, my voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. 3 years ago, I was living in a converted closet in Oakland, working 18-hour days on an idea that everyone said would never work. I looked directly at my family in the back of the room. People told me I should be more realistic. That I should get a stable job at a bank. That computer programming wasn't real work. That I was embarrassing myself by chasing impossible dreams. The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. But here's what I learned: the only person who gets to define your worth is you. The only person who gets to set limits on your potential is you. And the only person who has to believe in your dreams is you. I paused, thinking about that 22-year-old girl sitting alone on a bench outside Stanford's graduation ceremony. I built Inside Engine not just to create a successful company, but to prove something to myself and to every young woman who's ever been told her dreams are too big, too unrealistic, too risky. Success isn't about meeting other people's expectations. It's about exceeding your own. The applause started softly and built to another standing ovation. But I was only looking at my family, seeing the pride and amazement in their faces. After the ceremony, they waited for me in the hotel lobby. My mother approached first, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Stella, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. I'm so proud of you." "I know, Mom," I said, hugging her tightly. "I know." My father, who rarely showed emotion, put his hand on my shoulder. "Mija, you did something incredible. Something we never imagined possible." "Patricia's wedding was beautiful," my grandmother said, smiling through her own tears. "But this is better than any wedding. This is history." 6 months later, I endowed a $10 million scholarship fund at Stanford for first-generation college students from low-income families. The program is called the Real Work Initiative, and it's designed to help young people pursue careers in technology and entrepreneurship. Last year, Insight Engine went public. The company is now valued at over $3 billion, and we've helped more than 50,000 small businesses optimize their operations and increase their revenue. I bought my parents a house. Not because they asked for it, but because I wanted them to understand that success comes in many forms, and all of them are valid when they're built on hard work and determination. If you're watching this and someone in your life has told you that your dreams are too big, too risky, or too unrealistic, I want you to remember something. They're not rejecting your dreams because they're impossible. They're rejecting your dreams because they can't imagine achieving them themselves. Your worth isn't determined by other people's limitations. Your potential isn't capped by their fears. And your success doesn't need their permission. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's proving yourself right. Build something extraordinary. Not to show them who you are, but to show yourself who you can become. If you're building your own impossible dream right now, leave a comment and tell me about it. I love hearing from women who refuse to accept other people's definitions of what's possible. And don't forget to subscribe. Next week, I'm sharing the story of how I used my billion-dollar success to help other underestimated women build their own empires. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Remember, you are not too much. You are not too ambitious. You are not too anything. You are exactly enough, exactly as you are, to build exactly what you dream.